Proverbs chapter 21 is what we're going to read from today in our study this summer series in the book of Proverbs and finding the balance with all the stuff we have going on. It's a crazy world and a lot of stuff to manage. And God gives us actually great insight and wisdom on how to do that and be successful in the journey that we're on together. So this is focused on 2020. There's a couple of ways of looking at that title, 2020, Planning Ahead. 2020 speaks of the kind of vision that's healthy. 2020 vision is solid. You don't need glasses when you have that. I haven't had my eyes checked for a while, but I'm sure I don't have 2020 vision anymore because I can't read stuff unless I make the font big enough. Thank God for technology. Without glasses, I can't read menus anymore in restaurants. That's one of the most frustrating things, and I never remember to take glasses with me. So I'm having to ask people to help me read the menus. It's hard getting old, isn't it? I don't know, it's weird. So 2020 is also a way of looking at the future, that it's 8 years away. And where are we going to be in 8 years? How are we going to successfully land in 2020 in a good place if we don't plan right now the journey that's ahead of us? So that's what this talks about. Proverbs 21 and verse 5. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. If we stop for just a little bit and try to meditate on a verse as short as that, there's a lot actually to unpack. The plans, it speaks of plans of the diligent. If we don't plan, we leave ourselves open to allowing things to happen to us that wouldn't if we had put plans in place to avoid some of the calamity that often comes without making any plans for it not to happen. So we need to make plans. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. Here's another issue. Take the word plans and haste and think about the way that they mix. It takes time to plan. If you're hasty, what that says is you don't plan. The ways of the hasty lead to trouble. What does it say? It leads to poverty. So if we're just rushing and running through life and we don't pause long enough to plan, we're allowing the busyness of life and the way it comes at us to dictate our outcomes, and often that's not a good outcome. It takes time to slow down and plan. Here's a suggestion that I have that I'd like to leave with you today. Hopefully you can take it to heart. This idea that we would take at least 60 minutes in a week, 1 hour, 60 minutes, and use that time to slow down and focus solely on planning. 60 minutes of planning can make the 10,000, there's 10,080 minutes in a week. 60 minutes of those 10,080 used well, slowing down the plan will make the whole rest of it work. If we don't take that 60 minutes and we ignore the concept of planning, we can just get overrun by all the things that are flowing our way and hammering us down. We need to slow down and plan. I'd invite you to agree with me to make an effort to do that. Even if we're imperfect at it, maybe we miss 1 week, get back at it the next time. I need this reminder. Part of the reason I'm speaking this message to you today is because I want to refresh myself, remind myself of how important this is in my own life. Whenever I take time to plan, it always makes a difference in my outcomes, in where I'm going. But it takes time. Hastiness will cause us to not slow down long enough to plan where we're going. And then we jump down to verse 20. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has. He who pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. In the house of the wise, there are stores of food. The foolish man devours everything right away. It's all gone. A wise man plans and prepares and puts some stuff away for the needs that are ahead. And then the one who pursues righteousness, look at the word pursues. That's an action word. That's something we do. If we're going to have a relationship with God, that's not going to just jump on us and happen to us. It's something we plan and we pursue. We want it and we go after it to grab it. So when we pursue, he who pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. If someone was to offer you life, prosperity, and honor, I don't think anyone would go, I'm not really interested. Life, meaning a good life. Prosperity, we all know what that means. Whether it's finances or just health or other ways of our lives, relationships, prosperity is all good. Life, prosperity, and honor, that we have respect and people honor our life and what we do. I'm all over that. I want that. How do I get it? I get that through pursuing righteousness and love. Relationship with God and a loving relationship with people. But I have to do something about it and not expect it's just going to land in my lap. And then two more verses in the same chapter, verse 25. The sluggard's craving will be the death of him, because his hands refuse to work. All day long he craves for more, but the righteous give without sparing. These two verses talk about the need to get up and do, the need to work. If we're lazy, things fall apart around us. We might crave more, but not do anything to achieve more, and it will always elude us. And I think it's a really interesting tag on verse 26 that says, what about the righteous? The righteous give without sparing. Now, when that's linked to the concept of work, then it means it's not just about giving money. That's a part of it. The righteous give of themselves. The righteous get up and go. The righteous do something to help somebody else. Give without sparing. And in that, blessings keep coming back on us. So if we want life, prosperity, and honor, we need to plan for it. We need to take the time it takes to put a plan into place and then put our plan into motion by the doing of the plan. We've got good intentions. I'm confident that we're all here with good intentions. We want all the right things. We truly do. But when we leave places like this and life starts happening to us, I get it just as much as anybody that it is just not easy. Things begin to overwhelm us. We can get paralyzed by the complexities of the life that we're living and the challenges that we're faced with. I understand how that works. But we need to go past the room of good intentions and say, I'm not only intending to do good, I'm going to put it into play. That takes action on our part to say, here's what I'm going to do about this. And here's something I'm confident about today. God is here, the Holy Spirit of God is here to talk to every one of us. And He talks to you very personally when we tune our ear to listen to Him. So no matter what I say, I'm actually very much at peace that God is our teacher, and so He'll take things I say and He'll tune it to your need, and you'll hear it the way you need to hear it. That's how God works. I have people all the time that say, hey, thanks for saying this. That really spoke to me. And they repeat back to me what they heard me say, and I'm like, seriously? I can't find it in my notes. I don't remember saying that. But God does it. He translates and makes it right with what each of us needs to hear. I think that's a pretty awesome thing about Him and how He'll take the focus we have and the content of what we're talking about. It's all the Bible. It's all His wisdom and His will, and He'll tune it to just what you need in a very personal and specific way. So when that happens, let's lay hold of it and choose to actually put it into play and do something about it. I'd like to suggest 5 areas of life to plan for each week in how we pursue our life's journey. First of all, plan your spiritual pursuits. That's what this first verse in verse 5 talks about. The plans of the diligent lead to poverty. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. And then verse 21 that says, he who pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. So we need to pursue it. pursue God, pursue what is right about Him, pursue our relationship with Him. Plan when you read the Bible. That's where we get life from God. One of the simple tools is the Proverbs has 31 chapters. There's such great wisdom in the Proverbs. It seems like every verse has like a life message in it. You can read that proverb for the day. Today is July 15th. Read the 15th chapter of Proverbs. It doesn't take long. And think about it as you read it and how you can get life into you. Every day, read a proverb. Maybe read a couple of the Psalms, because they're like prayers that the psalmist is praying to God. And it becomes something really comforting to us. And then we can read systematically through other parts of the Bible. How will you pursue the Bible and its input into your life? If you don't, it's not going to happen. So I think there's actually great possibilities for how that works these days. There's a church in Oklahoma. Craig Groeschel's the pastor of Life Church, and they produced an app that's free on smartphones that you can download called YouVersion. YouVersion has all kinds of translations of the Bible at your fingertips, and they have audio translations of it. So I have that on my phone. I can plug it in my car. I can listen to it when I'm driving. There are times when I'm exercising, running out on the American River Bike Trail. What a great place that we have that here in our community, where you're not battling with cars. The only thing you have to worry about is the crazy cyclists. So some of you are out there. I've seen you. The cyclists think they own the trail. And once in a while you get some crazy runners too that won't get on the, you're supposed to run on the left side of the trail on the shoulder, not on the asphalt. It's better for your knees anyway. So anyway, you need information in church, that's helpful. These things are in the Bible. While I'm out there running, there's times I'll have my phone with me and my earphones in and just listening to the Bible. It's one of the coolest things to be breathing just beautiful, fresh air by the river without any smog, cars going by, and listening to truth. It doesn't get better than that. There's a podcast that I have free on my phone from Tim Keller. He's an amazing pastor in Manhattan, New York. And his insights into God's Word are just life to me every time I hear him. I have about 50 of his messages, and I'll listen to those often as I'm running. I'm getting great input into my mind and spirit starting off a day. And what a great thing. Sometimes when that runs out, like you get through a chapter or maybe through one of those messages and I still got maybe 20 minutes left on my run, I can turn it off and actually just communicate with God. Just talking to Him because I'm not like going so fast. I'll walk some and run some, just to stay steady with it and not be fully out of breath. And so there's a way to just talk with God along that journey. It is so awesome to have those moments, but I have to plan that into my day. And so one of the things to do when you get your 60-minute time frame is to look at your calendar for the week and decide, when am I going to read the Bible or have it read to me? Maybe it's in my drive time, and you plan it in. Write it on your planner. I'm going to listen to the Bible on my way to work or on my way home. Find a way to get it inputted into your life. It really does make a difference. It's pursuing righteousness. It's pursuing truth that becomes incredibly transformational. You might even want to plan in on the weeks it works as you look at your week ahead. Look at Wednesdays, and we have the 6:13 prayer meeting. You might be able to see how, hey, it might work for me this week to go to that. It's another way in a corporate prayer meeting. It's a whole nother level of communicating with God that's a very powerful thing. And you can plan that into your journey of how you grow spiritually. Plan your spiritual pursuits. It won't happen. It just simply will not happen unless you make it happen, unless you pursue righteousness and plan it in of when you're going to get it input into your life. And here's the thing I think that's so beautiful about the day we live is, even though it's complicated and crazy busy, the technology we have makes some of these input opportunities more attainable. We can do it when we're doing other things. We can do it driving. We can do it running. We can do it in lots of different ways and not miss those moments with God. So plan that in. Second, plan your relationship pursuits. Verse 21 that we read inspires us to pursue righteousness and love. Love speaks about the connections we have with humans. If we diligently pursue the love that we have in our homes, it's going to so make a difference, and not just think it's going to happen. It doesn't just happen. It happens when we pursue love. If you're married, when you got married, it was like so exciting. You're counting the days. I met a couple in the lobby today that are getting married in October, and they were just lit up. It was fun to talk to them because there's such joy in their focus of where they're headed. Where does that light go over the years? I know life happens, and things, you get comfortable in life, but there still needs to be a spark. There still needs to be a pursuit of that love dream. There's a wedding happening here Friday with this couple sitting right here in the front, Joe and Michelle Purcell. Your days are numbered. It's coming this Friday. Michelle has told us some of her story. She's become such an important part of our family and who we are as a church. Does an amazing job with our guest services and lots of things we do in outreach. And she had a crazy life, growing up, not knowing her dad. And lots of challenges. But how God has brought healing and hope to her life, and now Joe into her life, and beautifully matched, awesome, excited about their life coming up. I have actually a rare privilege of walking Michelle down the aisle Friday night to stand in as like a spiritual dad for her, to give her away on behalf of all of you as part of our family to Joe. So that's going to be a pretty cool moment for me to do that too. I thought I would only do that once in life when I gave Lane away. And I asked Lane if it was okay, if she minded me doing this. So thanks for letting me do that, and thanks for letting me do that. It's going to be cool. So these guys are like lit up, I mean, you can't get happier than facing marriage 5 days away. What happens after 5 years? What happens after 10 or 15 or 33? 33. She doesn't remember anyway, so numbers aren't her thing. So I can't even get in trouble on that one. 33 in about a month for us. You got to plan it. And there are ways to do it. I've talked about this before, that when I discovered some tools of how to plan things I wanted to do in my relationship to Kathy into my daily life, and I started writing things down that I had in my head to do that I just was blocked from doing for whatever dumb reason. And I was able to unblock that barrier and follow the plan. It took planning, writing it down, and then following through on the plan. It unlocked some things in our life, in my life, and that's been a beautiful part of our journey. That's pursuing love to make it better. I was listening to a talk thing on the radio this week, and it really caught my attention. They were talking about a concept, an idea in parenting. And the idea was that anytime a child would walk into the room that the parent was in, that the parent would stop whatever they were doing and acknowledge the presence of their child and light up, like their countenance would show the joy that their child just came in the room. And that meant even if they're on the phone, it meant enough to the parent to say, pause the conversation on the phone just a minute. I mean, this is like if they just come home, not like every time they walk in and out of the room. I'm not talking like that. Hey, oh. No, not like that, but, they haven't been there and they come in. You just see them that day for the first time. Even being on the phone to say, excuse me just a minute, I'll get back to you. And then they acknowledge the child by lighting up and being joyful that they see them. It brings such value and meaning to the child. And that every time there is that encounter, that it's positive, instead of just ignoring the presence of the child or acting like there's just a deadpan feeling that it doesn't even matter that they're there. I thought, what a great idea. How awesome is that to think about and plan that in? And then I related it this way in my own personal journey right now, that whenever I see the 3 grandchildren that we have, I light up totally without trying. I don't even think about it. It's just like, boom, they walk in the room. It's amazing. I can't help but smile and engage with them. There's anything like it. And I know it's probably because I don't see them every day. It's different when it's your own kids and it becomes a norm. I'm sure, it's surreal. It's just a part of life. But I so love seeing them. It caused me to think, wouldn't that be awesome to have that kind of reaction to our own children instead of letting it become a normative that, we just take for granted things, but not take their presence for granted at all. It's about pursuing love. It's about planning how to engage one another in our most intimate relationships in a willful way. We can do that at work too, in our planning about relationships. Who do we want to bless at work and plan how we do it? So, we could take about 10 minutes of 60 to plan our spiritual journey for the week, 5 or 10 to plan our family or our other relationship journeys, how it relates in our personal life, how it relates in our work life. Maybe there's somebody we've thought about thanking for the influence they had, but we just never get it done. And we write it down in our planner. I'm going to do that this day at this time. I'm going to let that person know what they mean to me. I found sometimes I get a prompt to talk to somebody that's touched my life. And if I don't act on it, I often just let it slide. But if I act on it in the moment and get that number and call it and say, hey, I just needed to tell you something, that brings such incredible power on the acting out of that. And planning it is a big part of the process. Here's the third part: plan your financial future. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. The craving of a sluggard will be the death of him because his hands refuse to work. All day long he craves for more, but the righteous give without sparing. Plan your financial future. It's a big part of the meaning of life. It's a big part of the peace or lack of peace in life. It's important to take time to evaluate where we're at. If you feel the burden of money, because it's tough, particularly if your work life or business life is affected by the economic issues of the day, there's some things out of one's control, and it can still feel pretty heavy. Sometimes the feeling can feel so heavy that we want to just ignore it. I've learned that ignoring something that exists will not make it go away. If anything, it just gets heavier. The best thing we can do is to face the challenge, face the beast head on, and talk about it. Talk about it in one's family life. And get it on the table. Then we can start to fix it. We can start to work on it and figure out how to overcome it. Here's some quick tips in your planning. There's a lot of great information available on what to do for financial planning. Dave Ramsey, I saw a picture that Roy Hill, when he was sharing his story on the video of his business, he had a picture on the wall with Dave Ramsey. I'm sure he must have gleaned lots of principles from his teachings that are amazingly great. So here's just some excerpts. Eliminate high-interest debt first. If you have debts, find the highest interest one and put the most toward that you can until that's paid off first, because it's costing you the most and adding to your debt by letting it linger. And then when that's paid off, you have the snowball effect of taking that payment and applying it to the next one until we can get those things paid off, which means not adding to the debt in the process of paying it off. Plan to spend less than you earn. It sounds kind of, like a no-brainer, but it's easier to say that than to do that. If we're not planning, we don't even know how much we're spending. And so we can run out of money before the next paycheck and not realize that we got there if we don't plan it. So we need to plan to spend less than we earn. It takes a plan to put in place in order to make that happen. Don't concern yourself with trying to impress others. That's more of an emotional thing. Don't worry about what people think. If you can't do something someone else is doing because you don't have the money, you don't have to say it. Just say, I can't, we can't do that right now. You don't have to, it's not lying about something. We got something else going on. We can't do that right now. And you don't have to compare yourself to anybody else's situation and worry about what they think in regard to money. Give the first 10% to God. That's actually one of the steps toward freedom. Roy talked about it. He decided in the middle of his challenge that he was going to give 10% of his company's gross profits. And things started to happen that were just quite miraculous. I love that testimony. And there's something about it that is the way God works. So take that tip and step into that part of the journey. Put effort toward increasing income. What can you sell? I've loved watching some of the things that our kids do. They're a lot more tuned into the technology that's available, and they know how to sell stuff on Craigslist or buy stuff on Craigslist or eBay or all that stuff. They just know how to do it. It seems easy to them. And I've watched them actually use money really wisely by getting some things really cheap but really good through the way they find deals, or by selling things that they had and getting some extra cash by being wise about what they possess. Nate and Lisa lived with us for about 5 months while they were in transition from moving from New York back to California. I watched Nate do some things. It was like, seriously, how did you figure that out? He started going to thrift shops and buying things super cheap. Sometimes they have dollar days. And he knows style, and he knows how to pick out the right stuff. I walk in one of those stores, I'm dead. I can't handle it. I can't find anything. He knows how to search through it, find the right stuff, buy the stuff that looks good, vintage clothing. And then he would bring it home, and he and Lisa would model it. They'd go out in the backyard with this rack of clothes, and they had a great camera. They would take pictures of them modeling the clothes and put it on a website, and they have a business. And people are buying things all around the world, and they're shipping them. And they buy something for $1 and sell it for 20. Buy something for $5 and sell it for 50. It's just crazy how that works, but I watched him get really diligent about it, like not being slothful and deciding, I got time on my hands, I'm going to go to work. And he went to work shopping at thrift stores, buying stuff super cheap and marking it up. They started tie-dyeing things. They were doing that when I was in high school. Now they're figuring out this tie-dye method. It's not like it was back then. They have some really cool ways of making patterns with the way they do it. And they're selling tie-dye clothing that they get at vintage stores. And unbelievable ability to figure out how to increase income by figuring out what can we sell. I've been amazed. I've been blessed by watching them walk through the doors that are possible for anybody. So we should get inspired. What can we do to increase our income, and plan that and think about it and look for ways? Celebrate your progress also in the process. Make it fun. Money can feel so heavy. It can feel like such a bummer and such a burden. It can wreck one's life. How can we turn it into something that's more joyful? It's a tool. It's not life itself. And we figure out how to manage even our troubles and still be joyful in the midst of it. I've also watched people I love walk through some hardships financially, but maintain their joy because the money wasn't where their happiness was found. We can learn how to turn even troubles and trials into joyful processes and celebrate the victory. Something gets paid off, it's time for a celebration. And splurge on something to make that a joyful part of the process. Plan your health. Plan to improve your health. The craving of a sluggard will be the death of him because his hands refuse to work. If we're lazy, it can do harm to us even physically. Take time to determine when you can exercise. 3 or 4 days a week is really all it takes. Walking is still one of the best exercises. You don't even have to join a gym. Just get out and move, and things begin to change. We've been on a journey in our house. We've switched doctors. We've got some fresh eyes to look at health issues for Kathy's journey, and Now I've watched also as she has been studying food issues and what kind of things can affect migraines that way, and taking time to plan and prepare and pursue what kind of foods would be wise to get, and how to cook it and how to prepare for being healthy, not only in getting moving, but also in what we take in, portion control, and finding ways to make sure that we do our best to advance our own personal health. It takes planning to do it. If we don't plan, it's just going to happen. We'll be overrun by the challenges, and we get depressed, and so it's harder to get up, and it's easier to take in. If we start to plan, we can get a passion for a mission. And if you stumble along the way, just don't quit. That's one of our biggest problems, one of mine. When I try to eat a certain way and then fail at it, it's like I just forget about the whole thing. But if I get back on track, it's just figuring out how to lose a little bit over a long period of time. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens over time. And the healthy process is about planning it out and not being depressed about where I'm at, being thankful, being happy. I'm excited about where I'm at, even though it's not where I want to be, but I'm going to experience the joy that God has for me, and then I'm going to work on where He wants me to go. Plan your community service and outreach last. The last part of verse 26, the righteous give without sparing. That's not just about money. That's about our time and efforts. It's attached to how there's some that are lazy, don't do anything, while the righteous get up and do, and they help other people. The righteous give without sparing. What are we doing to give ourselves away? If we think that somehow the world revolves around us and we're going to get happy when everybody serves us, all that ends up is being more empty and more debilitating. But when we realize joy really comes by being fulfilled, by being useful, by having value in what I do for other people, it comes back on me in such waves of peace and joy and satisfaction. The best thing I can do is to serve somebody else. So that has to be planned. Planned community service and outreach. Look at your week and figure out, what can I do to help give myself back to my community? We've got so many ways to do that. We've got a great connection to the mayor's office. We know of many programs the community has that we can invest ourselves in. We can link you up to anything if you're ever wondering, don't know what to do. We've got more ideas than we have people to fill. So there is no shortage of possibilities. I would say even just once a month would be a great purposeful start to investing oneself in the community in some way. Maybe in church life, serving in this family in some specific way that will make a difference in the life of someone else. It'll come back on you in a beautiful way. So here's a tool I want to leave with you on our website. We have recently changed our address on the web to capitalonline.cc. It's very simple, capitalonline.cc. That'll bring up the home page. Near the bottom of that home page, you will find a part that says latest messages and news. The first title under that today is 2020 Planning Ahead, download tool. You'll see that right away. Click on that and it'll take you to another page that gives you information about what we talked about today. And at the bottom of that page, there are words, and part of it's in blue, that says download the calendar tool here. Right there. Click on that and that'll take you to the tool. On the tool, there's a sample of what you can do in planning a week out. The first page has Monday through Wednesday. The second page has Thursday through Sunday, I think. So with that, there's samples of what that could look like, and below it is a blank page that you can print out and you can use for your own. You might have your own calendar purposes. Use that, but this is just a tool to help you know what you can do to get started. We don't want to leave you with an idea and not anything to tangibly use to go forward with it. Along with this, at the bottom, you will find the 5 things we talked about today. There's 3 on that page and the other 2 above it. We talked about money. We talked about health. We talked about outreach, my world and me. And on the other part of it, we talked about God and me, our spiritual pursuit, and you and me, our relational pursuit. So those 5 things are listed. That's not overwhelming to do if we take an hour, 60 minutes out of 10,080 minutes, transform our lives if we purpose to do it. Father God, I pray that you help us in this moment in our pursuit here in this house of worship. Thank you for the privilege of coming together and being a family that's learning and growing, and how you want to help us through your truths, through the Proverbs that we read today. They're truly life to us. And so I pray that that life would be poured out into our hearts and minds, and we would lay hold of it, and we would be changed by it. And we wouldn't get a feeling of defeat or guilt or any of those things, but just inspiration and hunger to do something purposeful, to pursue you and to pursue health in our lives. We believe for that. Just ask for your touch upon us to accomplish all that you have in store. We thank you, Lord, for your love for us. Thank you that you have an ability to strengthen us in every way, that we'll be balanced and we'll be whole as personal followers after you. We ask for your strength and your help in all these things in Jesus' name. Why don't we stand together, and I'd like to speak a word of blessing to you before we go. If you're a guest with us today, a while back I was going out after service in the lobby and just being available to our guests, that people who've come new to the church I haven't had a chance to meet. I kind of got away from it for a while for different reasons, and I felt just kind of inspired to do that again. I miss it, and I miss connecting with many who are coming new to our church. So I'm going to do that after we dismiss. I'll be out in the lobby, just in the cafe lounge area, right out these back doors, right in the center. So if you're new and we haven't had a chance to connect, stop by and just say hi. It's just very informal. I'd like to meet you in a personal way. Be blessed with God's supernatural wisdom and clear direction for life. Be blessed with creativity, with courage, ability, and abundance. Be blessed with self-control and self-discipline. Be blessed with a great family, good friends, and good health. Be blessed with faith, favor, and fulfillment. Be blessed with success, supernatural strength, promotion, and divine protection. Be blessed with an obedient heart and a positive outlook on life. Be blessed in the city and in the country when you go in and when you come out. Any negative word that's ever been spoken over you is broken right now. Everything you put your hand to will prosper and succeed. God has his hand on your life. He's a God of blessing. He's a God of victory. He's a God that wins at everything. And he'll turn our disappointments into victories if we just keep holding on to him and trusting him and believing in him. So as we press into him, everything we put our hands to, they're going to prosper and succeed if we don't quit. So be blessed in Jesus' name. God bless you today. Thanks so much for being a part. We're looking forward to a great time ahead of us.